Last video I spent 7 hours on BMAT V6 and 10 minutes in plan mode to build the same game. But at the end I said something. I also tried different reasoning effort levels, Codex and Gemini, but that's a different video. This is that video. Same requirement documents, same sound files, same prompt, 4 different model configurations, all using plan mode. One of them I published online and people at work actually played it. The other 3 had varying definitions of playable. And right before I finished editing, a surprise 5th contender showed up that I couldn't ignore. Let's find out who wins. Quick recap if you missed the last one. The game is called Feed TGC, a canvas-based HTML5 game where you launch tuna at a swinging cat head within a 60-second timer. Simple concept, perfect test case. Here's why this comparison exists. When Opus 4.6 came out with reasoning effort levels, I noticed it thinks much longer than 4.5 ever did. For my daily work, I explicitly set reasoning to low. Faster iteration, I stay focused on the terminal instead of getting distracted while it's thinking for 2 minutes. I was happy with it. Then a colleague told me they went back to medium and high effort because the output quality was much better. So I wanted to verify that claim. And to make the comparison more interesting, I threw Codex and Gemini into the mix. 4 contenders. Opus 4.6 with low reasoning effort, the plan mode built from the BMAT video. Opus 4.6 with high reasoning effort, same model, more thinking time. Codex CLI with GPT 5.4 extra high effort. And Gemini 3.1 Pro through Antigravity high effort. All 4 got the same requirements, the same audio files and the same prompt. Read requirements.md and build the game for me. The game should be running in HTML5 canvas. Feel free to suggest the implementation details. You're not limited in any resources, so you can use sub-agents whatever you need. Just make sure to get the game very well planned and executed so that it runs the best quality. No hand-holding, no follow-up instructions. Just build it and let me see what happens. For context on pricing, Claude Code Max is $100 a month. Codex is $20, and Antigravity has a free tier. The low-effort build was already covered in the BMAT video. Plain JavaScript, no bundler, no TypeScript. It spent a few minutes planning, built the whole game, and it worked first try. Used 4% of my 5-hour token budget. Looked decent, played well. Solid baseline. Now the high-effort build. Same prompt, same assets, just the reasoning effort cranked up. It took about 6 minutes just to create the plan. I had some VPN issues mid-session that forced a couple restarts, which burned some tokens, but on the 3rd attempt it ran clean. The result was noticeably different. The cat has animated eyes that moved. When you left the cat hungry, 0 score, it showed a stone-faced expression with animated tears. The ground shook when the cannon fired. There was a proper instructions screen with a pulsing start button. Different cat expressions for different game states. Happy when fed, sad when hungry. The creativity was much different. Low effort gave me a functional game. High effort gave me a game with personality. The only fixes I needed were minor, timer contrast and text readability adjustments. I published the high effort version at thegreycat.com/feedtgc, shared it with colleagues at work and people actually played it. That's the winner, and I'm telling you upfront so you don't have to sit through the rest wondering. I bought a Codex subscription mainly for PR reviews, but figured I'd test it on the same game while I had it. Right away I hit a problem. Plan mode defaults to medium effort even when your session is set to extra high. Turns out it's a known bug. The fix is adding planning effort settings to your config.toml file. Small tip, but if you're using Codex in plan mode, check that. It silently downgrades your reasoning. I'd seen a YouTube demo where someone prompted GPT 5.4 to build GTA 6 in one shot and got a playable top-down game, so I had expectations. Codex asked me more questions during planning than Claude ever did. Tech stack preferences, I said Vite and TypeScript. Mobile or desktop? Desktop. Best score persistence? Sure, local storage. It chose to add Playwright for testing. The whole planning and implementation took over 15 minutes with the extra high effort. Definitely doing the extra effort. I was hopeful. Then I opened the browser. The layout was broken. Text overflowed the containers. The progress bar for charging the Canon didn't work. The sound played when I held space, but no visual indicator filled up. The cat barely swung, making it almost impossible to miss. The game was technically there, but nothing worked as intended. I fed it screenshots and descriptions of what was wrong. After several iterations, some bugs got fixed. The layout improved, the swing distance increased, but the charge bar never worked properly. The overcharge explosion mechanic was unreliable. It built better infrastructure than any other model. TypeScript, Vite, playwright tests, local storage for high scores, a loading screen. If you opened the project folder, you'd think a senior engineer set it up. If you opened the browser, you'd think the intern shipped it on Friday afternoon. There is no use in TypeScript if the game is broken. After the Codex results, some colleagues suggested I try Gemini. Free tier, so nothing to lose except time. The experience was different from the start. I couldn't find a YOLO mode in Antigravity's settings or chat UI, so I was stuck clicking aloud for every action. And the planning works differently. It thinks before executing, but there is no step where it shows you the plan and asks for approval. It just plans internally and starts writing code. The first few attempts terminated with errors. The agent terminated due to error. That was the fastest failure I'd seen so far. On retry, it would get a bit further, fail again, and I'd retry once more. Eventually, it got through the initial setup. One thing Antigravity does well. It auto-opens the browser and self-recovers from errors. When it detected runtime issues in Chrome, it fixed them without me asking. That's something Cloud Code didn't have built in at the time. The terminal UI was also nice. Clean, well-colored output. The first playable result was tiny and buggy. The cat barely moved. But the visual style was different. Gemini took a completely different approach to the SVG assets. It also generated its own sound effects instead of using the MP3 file I provided. Custom synthesized sounds from nothing. I found two bugs. First, when the Canon exploded from overcharging, the game over screen would immediately restart because I was still holding the spacebar. It treated the held space as a new game input. Same bug I hit in the BMAT build, by the way. Second, the swing amplitude got smaller over time instead of speed increasing. The requirements clearly said the cat should swing faster, not shorter. Gemini interpreted it backwards. After a few refinement prompts, beautify the images, make the game bigger, fix these two bugs, it became playable. Better even, I'd heard Gemini was good at SVGs. From the one-shot results, I didn't see it. After refinement, I could see the potential, but it needed the iteration to get there. The winner is Opus 4.6 with high reasoning effort. Best visuals, fewest bugs, most polished result from a single prompt. Animated cat expressions, screen shake, a proper instructions screen. It's the one I published and the one people played. Runner-up, Opus 4.6 with low effort. Less creative, but it worked perfectly on the first try. If you value reliability over visual flair, this is a strong choice, and it costs a fraction of the tokens. Third place, Gemini 3.1 Pro via Antigravity. The self-recovery and browser integration are genuinely interesting. On the free tier, it kept dying with our servers are overloaded errors. Apparently, free users get kicked first, and the pay Google AI subscription would avoid this. But the tool has potential, it just needs more prompting to get where Opus starts. Last, Codex with GPT 4.5. The best project setup of any model. The worst playable game. It went for Vite, TypeScript, Playwright, local storage, a professional foundation for a broken product. The key insight across all four. Every model can fix bugs when you point them out. Give any of them a screenshot and a clear description of what's wrong, and they'll iterate toward a solution. The difference is one-shot quality. Opus knew its capabilities. It went with plain JavaScript and a simple implementation that actually worked. Codex went for the enterprise setup that worked, but not quite well. That gap between ambition and execution is the whole story. Wait, right as I was finishing editing this video, Cursor dropped their own model called Composer 2 in two variants, standard and fast. The fast version claims to compete with Opus 4.6 in benchmarks, so I had to give it the same test. Same requirements, same audio files, same prompt, no cursor rules, just a fresh project. The speed was immediately shocking. Before I even approved the plan, it was already writing code, generating documentation, creating a to-do list, and building, all while technically still in plan mode. 3 minutes from prompt to a runnable game. The first result had text overflowing the borders, an unrealistically fast cat, and a cannon that didn't look like anything recognizable. But unlike GPT 5.4, the core mechanics actually worked from the start. The charge bar functioned, the overcharge blew up the cannon as intended, and the game didn't auto-restart while I was holding the spacebar. The visuals were rough, but the gameplay was surprisingly solid. This is where the speed advantage really matters. I sent screenshots of the issues and fixes came back in under a minute. A more cat-themed interior and better cannon design turned into animated explosions, a launch-lunch slogan, which I genuinely found funny, and proper backgrounds. Each iteration was so fast I couldn't even get distracted between them. After a few more rounds, adding sound files, tweaking cat speed, adjusting layout, I had a polished game with background music and proper effects, having used 56% of the context window. The whole thing took maybe 15 minutes while Opus spent 6 minutes just on planning. The final result isn't as good as Opus' high effort, simpler visuals, no screen shake or animated tears, but it's solidly in second or third place, and the iteration speed is in a completely different league. The one real downside is the context window. With Opus and GPT at 1 million tokens, I'd gotten used to not watching the meter, and now I have to worry about self-summarization kicking in much sooner. The API pricing tells a dramatic story. I used roughly 5 million tokens to build the Composer 2 game. Unfortunately, I didn't track counts for the other builds. That's on me. Per million tokens, Composer 2 Fast is $1.50 input, $7.50 output. Standard Composer 2 is even cheaper at 50 cents and $2.50. Compare that to Opus 4.6 at 5 and 25, GPT 5.4 at $2.50 and 15, or Gemini 3.1 Pro at $2 input and 12 output. And it gets worse. Both Claude and Codex now offer fast modes for their flagship models, but the way they handle pricing couldn't be more different. Codex fast mode for GPT 5.4 stays within your subscription. It just burns credits at twice the normal rate, which is fair and predictable. Anthropic's approach, on the other hand, is frankly hard to justify. Claude Code's fast mode runs at $30 input and $150 output per million tokens, and none of it is covered by your max subscription, not a single token. You're paying $100 or $200 a month for max, and the moment you toggle fast mode on, every token is built as extra usage on top of that. It's like buying a gym membership and then being charged per rep on the nicer equipment. Since my tokens were mostly outputs, the Composer 2 Fast game cost roughly $37 at API rates. The same build with Opus would have been around $125, and with standard Composer 2 about $12.50. If I'd used Opus Fast mode, we'd be looking at $750 for the same build. Most of us use subscriptions, of course. Claude Code Max is $100 a month, Cursor Pro is $20, but to put that in perspective, most of my colleagues have squeezed their Claude Code Max subscription well past $1,000 worth of API tokens, and that's not even the $200 tier. And if you turn on fast mode, those extra charges hit your billing on top of the subscription. Opus 4.6 is still the best results I've gotten from any model, but the cost isn't even the real concern. The real problem with the flow model is that you can't stay in the flow. You're stuck waiting, you get distracted by YouTube or Slack, and by the time it's done, you've lost your train of thought. A faster model might need more iterations, but each one comes back so quickly that you stay focused, and in practice that often means getting things done faster overall. If you want the full BMAT context behind this comparison, I'll link the previous video. If you found this useful, subscribe. It genuinely helps the channel grow. And remember, if your cat had to wait for 4 AI models to figure out dinner, she'd have eaten you by now.